Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're having an amazing conversation today. I think the best conversations are the ones where we actually didn't plan what to say. I mean, we know we're so passionate about this topic, and when you have something that you're literally just spilling over with, like we can talk forever about this. So we know we're very confident that we're not going to just stay quiet and not have what to say. So this is a very organic conversation. You're literally just, you're invited to have to see us talking this through because we have so much to just, hash out with each other on this topic and build on these things and build on this concept of the feminine secrets of redemption. And it's not a lofty topic that's way up there, out there. It's very much in our body, very much in our real life, in our day-to-day life. And that's what we want to bring to light. That's what we want to share with the world to really understand how the concept of redemption, the concept of Mashiach, the concept of Geulah is your everyday story as a Jewish woman. And we know this concept of that the Geulah came because of the women in the past. I mean, we're in these parshas now, like it's Beshalach this week. So we're going to learn about Miriam and her role in the women in Mitzrayim and all that. But it's very much relevant in our generation. We are the era of the days of Mashiach, the pre-Messianic era, where we're seeing a lot of these patterns of redemption, of things happening in the world that are mind-blowing and definitely leading somewhere. And then at the same time, we're also seeing the rise of the feminine. We're seeing women reclaiming themselves. And we'll get into this more, but it's like, it started with a feminist movement, and then that was like in a twisted kind of way. And then we're seeing more now of actually returning to the feminine, because the feminist movement was more of women being men. And now we're like, no, women should be women. And what does it actually mean? I'm reclaiming that. So I'll introduce myself and how I got into this work, and then we'll give Sir Miriam a minute to introduce herself and how she got into this work. So my work is, well, I reclaim womanhood is my I don't know, my mission in the world. Like I want every woman to have the opportunity to really know herself, know her true power, because womanhood is such a gift, and it's been hidden for so long. Specifically, the actual biological processes we go through as women, including cycles, menstruation, pregnancy, birth, postpartum, menopause, all the things that we go through as women that are taboo. We don't talk about it as much. And there's so much power hidden in there when we actually know how to embody it, how to be with it, how to move in the world in a cyclical rhythm. And that's part of the secret of redemption that we carry in our bodies, and we'll talk about that. So even the idea of reclaim, right? It's not something that we're starting new. It's something that we've always had. It was somehow lost along the way, which we'll talk about that overall cycle of redemption. And then we're reclaiming it now. We're in the place in the time of history where we're actually taking that back. We're actually coming back to who we were always meant to be from the beginning. So, um, yeah, Reclaim Womanhood is where we do all that. I start actually with a physical, like my first um, role, I guess you would call it, is fertility awareness educator. I teach women how to track their cycles, to understand when they're fertile, and they can use that knowledge to either get pregnant naturally, prevent pregnancy naturally, understand their hormonal health, their overall health, overall balance in life. Um, and then also incorporate different modalities, life coaching, breath work, and different things like that, body like embodiment and tuning into yourself as a woman to reclaim your power, to really know yourself and really be in rhythm with yourself. So yeah, I'm also a Kyle teacher, and that's how I know Sarah Miriam. We trained together with Rachel Goldbaum, so that was really beautiful. And take it away. Let's introduce Sarah Miriam now.
Hello, first of all, I'm so honored and excited to be here. And like Pessy said, we literally didn't even plan anything. We were just like, should we plan this? And then we're like, nah, we're just gonna have a conversation. So we'll see what comes out. And also, anyone who's coming here or watching later from my classes, you might be a little confused. I have to admit, I also called my classes Reclaim at first. And Pessy was so good, she
It's
didn't say anything to
universal.
me.
It's universal. It's the energy in the world right now. We're reclaiming.
But you didn't say anything to me. And all of a sudden, like a while later, I was like, oh my gosh, I literally just took Pessy's name. So we've recently rebranded. We're now called In Rhythm, which has to do with the new course that's going to be coming out soon. But I actually work full time in corporate tech world. So you won't see emails from me. Like I'm not able to do this full time right now. I hope one day in the future. But I teach different taboo topics that shouldn't be taboo. Totally reframing Taras Mishpacha. We do intimacy, both physical and spiritual. Birth control is a big one I do, just giving unbiased information on every type of method, what you'll hear from your doctor, what you won't hear from your doctor. That's a lot of the work that I do in this space. But the Geulah stuff is actually interesting because I wouldn't say like I was naturally born like that type of spiritual mystical person, but for some reason, I don't know, I've just been taken on this journey and things have come up along the way. And when I was in high school, something just sparked in me. I think a teacher showed us like a tour, like a virtual tour of the Beis Hamikdash. I think that's what it was. And now I watch it every year on Tisha B'Av again. And it was just like, oh, this is something real. And I started just like exploring a little bit and I started speaking about it as I got older. And it never occurred to me that it was the same space as this other work. Now I'm like, how could I not have seen the connection? But I was like, okay, sometimes I speak about Geulah, sometimes I speak about like marriage and whatever. Sometimes I speak about cycling. It's literally all the same thing. So that's why I'm so excited to be here and to be talking about this so that we can like you said, Pessy, it's like it's so clearly becoming revealed in the world, and I feel like we have to talk about it because it's just not just the same way like our bodies are not taught properly in this world and intimacy is not taught properly and all that. Google is also not taught. I was just talking with a relative who lives in a yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael, and she said there it's like, at least in her yeshiv, it's like such an obvious day to day like reality. And I feel like, at least in the system I went through, like it wasn't really something taught, but it's something that we're supposed to live with every moment of every day, and we have like no connection to it. And like you said, what does it mean women are going to bring the geula? We don't even know. We're not even taught about it. So yeah, that's why I'm here, and hopefully this will be a great conversation.
Yeah. And it's so funny because for me, I never even thought about these topics. Like, again, I think for most of us, it's like just a spiritual topic that's way out there. We talk about it Pesach, but it's okay. Yeah, we know Mashiach's gonna come one day. It's like, far off in the distant future. And I think for me, it started becoming real actually after being into cycles for so long. Like being in first doing this work for myself, like coming back to my own cyclical rhythm. And I'll explain briefly what I mean by that because I know not everyone is familiar with my work and what this means is first acknowledging that we go through phases. We have a cycle that's not just about our period. We have phases of the month. Um, I like to call it the inner seasons, inner winter, inner spring, inner summer, inner fall. We have the different phases. Like menstruation is our inner winter when we're more inward, we're more like within ourselves, and then we come more outward, and then we go back inward. And it really also reflects the Taras Mishpacha cycle, right? Like when we're in Ida, we draw more inward, and then Mikvah brings us more back outward, back in relationship, back with others, and it really does reflect our cyclical rhythm, like our nature as a woman. And what I started finding, the more I was in tune with this myself, I started realizing that as we were going, there's also a cycle we go through throughout the seasons of the year, right? The outer seasons and also the Jewish holidays. So we have different times, like I was saying before, Pesach is the time of redemption. We really celebrate that. We honor that. We can feel that if we tune into that. And then we have the summer where we have Tisha B'Av and time of mourning. And I think a lot of people have a hard time with that. And I think that was something I realized early on, like, wow, this knowledge of my own body and my own womanhood is actually helping me approach these seasons and these different times because there's a time for everything, right? A time for joy, a time for sadness, a time for all those things, and it just helped me be with what is, appreciate what it gives, what it offers, and realize that it's not just about a temple that was burned 2,000 years ago. It was it's an actual process that we move through. There's actual like our experience in day-to-day life, like any grief you move through in life, any healing you move through in life. Like this is a pretty bold statement to say, but I really believe this very strongly, and I'll explain more where it comes from and how I first got into this idea. I believe trauma is exile and healing is redemption. And trauma is a big word. It can mean a lot of different things. It can, there's big T, little t, and we're not therapists. We're not coming from the therapeutic modality of treating all that, but we're just coming from the acknowledgement of like, wow, everyone is becoming so much more aware of their trauma and their healing, and everyone's on a healing journey, and the world is into healing, and it's just showing up in so many different ways. And some ways are helping, and some ways are not. Like there are all these different things, but the overall, let's call it enlightenment or awareness or consciousness is absolutely the light of Geulah coming in different ways and just making us more aware, making us more connected to ourselves, making us more connected to Hashem in different ways in our own journey, in our own path. It's not about like pushing Hashem onto you. It's coming through your own process of seeing like who he is to you in your day-to-day life, in your situation, and from your story. Um, so that's how it came to me, really just from my own experience, my own cycling, and being in this experience of womanhood that it just transfers in all areas of life. It transfers like our Jewish traditions have all this instilled in our calendar already. But as women, the concept of women are not obligated in time-bound commandments because we have a cycle of time within us. We're already connected to this concept of time. We're already connected to this time concept of cycling and coming inward and connecting and being conscious. And we don't necessarily need all these constant time related reminders because we're already living in that cycle.
And I would say that a lot of the I was already doing work on like what is redemption. Like a lot of times we're
Mhm.
like, oh, I just need Mashiach, right? And it's like a band-aid for pain. And it's more like, well, what is it? We don't know really, but like the work of like, let's envision what it's going to be like instead of just what it's going to heal. And I think a lot of the threads of connection to the cycle I actually probably got from you. That's where like things started. But now it's just so obvious because we also, I mean, should we go to the women of Mitzrayim now?
Go wherever you want to go. That's what we're doing.
Right. So, okay, I'm going to start with the women of Mitzrayim then. I just love this. So we always learn like B'schos Nashim Tzedakanios, right? It's the women in Mitzrayim were the ones that brought the Geulah. And when we're kids, we just know that. That's whatever. It was the women, right? And we know the tambourines. We know that the women had like a special faith and a
By the
special
way,
trust that the
circles,
Geulah was
tambourines
coming.
and drums are all circles.
Right.
We'll talk soon
Pay
about Miriam's
attention to all
circle
the
dance.
circles.
Yeah.
But that's like what we learn, and that's that's true, and it's great. It is a deep idea. But then when you're a little older, I actually was taught in high school, like the Gemara, the Midrash about the women going to the men, and so I got like that piece actually pretty early on. But we know that the women would beautify themselves, right? And they would go to the men, and they would like arouse them, and then they would be with them, and then that was the continuity of the Jewish people. So at that point, when you learn that, you kind of say like, okay, well, they kept the Jewish people from dying out, so that's why they were redeemed, right? And there's like a piece missing that just puts everything all
Like, what
together.
gave the
And
women that strength? Where did they have
right.
it
Like
from?
I just I heard on a podcast recently a teacher was saying about Ish's Chayil that the woman gets up in the night and she was saying women have the special ability to have a moon on the dark times. And I was like, you're missing the final piece. You're missing like it's not just a magical special ability given to women. It's also that, but it's so much more grounded than that. Like
Yeah.
we live the concept of the cycle in our body every single day and every single month, right? And so our physical body represents a spiritual reality. We understand the concept that the cycle always turns and the redemption always comes. And every month we live a galus and a geula. There's I could give you a million sources from Chazal of that the Nida period is like galus and then the Tahara period is like the geula, right?
Mhm.
So we live that even if we're not connected to it. We really are living that every single month, and the women in Mitzrayim understood this, and so the men actually lost hope. And I
Right.
mean, I can't really blame them, right? They totally lost hope. They weren't even coming home anymore. They were just in the field. And then an extra piece that I just like to add from like my teaching intimacy perspective is that men very often, not always, but often women come from, nothing's across the board, everybody, but very often women come from an emotional place and then they open up to physical. Men very often have to go through the door of the physical first and then they're open to their whole world of emotions.
Right.
So it was almost like the men had completely shut everything off. They had shut off the pain too. They just couldn't even feel anything anymore. And then when the women came and with their knowledge, the fact that they were cycling and the fact that they knew that Geulah was going to come because it always comes and they lived that in their bodies, they were able to bring that knowledge to the men. And then through the physical intimacy, it is really also a spiritual reality. Another thing we're not taught, and it's very hard to understand until you're taught it, but it is true. They were able to open them up to their emotions, and then they were able to cry out, and then the wheels of the redemption started turning.
And also,
So
more
I
than
think,
that, they made them aware of who they are, right? With the mirrors, they were able to like
right?
see,
They
like, you
said,
forgot
right.
who you are, right? And the women, why did the women know who they were? Okay, continue because I interrupted you, then we'll go
No, no,
there.
no, no. You could go. You could go. Go with that piece. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think we're always missing. We learn about the story. Okay, so women were the ones who brought redemption because they had this extraordinary amuna. But where did it come from? We've like I think we're just like fed this idea like it's yeah, women are just more spiritual. Women just have this knowing. Women just are have amuna, and it's all true. Like nothing is negated there. It's all true. But I think we lose that when we just like when it's just so fluffy and it's just so like it feels like ear, like it's like you said, it's not grounded. It's like there's something missing here. And then when we realize, hey, we literally go through a cycle. Our body knows amuna. Our body knows that the cycle returns. Our body knows that nothing is forever. Our body knows this too shall pass. It's not just like a nice thing that you say, oh, this too shall pass. Like let's just comfort you and reassure you. No, you actually know it in your body because you've been through cycles. You've had cycles pass and cycles return and different phases pass and different phases return. So like let's say if you like if you have a painful period, let's say, which again we can get into like how that's not really normal and like, whatever, but let's say right because that's a gallows concept is to have let's say symptoms and struggle with these things is but you know that your period will pass. right? It's a very embodied concept. It's logic. I mean, everyone knows it, and you know the next phase will come. So that's literally what Emuna means. It's like it's embodied. It's like I know the redemption will come because I literally feel it in my body. I literally know this every single month. So because they had this experience, they knew who they were. They knew that, they didn't forget that they're not actually meant to be slaves, that there is, a great nation that's going to be redeemed, and they were promised, and just like their body like fulfills these promises every month, they know that it will be fulfilled because, again, we'll talk about this soon more, but like our cycles are cosmic. Cycles are not just your menstrual cycle in your body, or it's there's cycles everywhere, and the world itself, like the 6,000 years from Gan Eden till redemption, is one moon cycle. So you think about a moon cycle, a menstrual cycle. That's the whole 6,000 years. So we'll talk about that, how we see cycles of Geulah throughout history, and how, okay,
Yeah.
we're getting so ahead of ourselves. But what did I want to say here is that women know it in their bodies, and they knew who they were. They knew they didn't forget. The men forgot. The men forgot who they were. They were just so like pushed down in this exile. And because they remembered, they bought their mirrors and they're like, "Hey, I'm more beautiful than you." Oh, like you forgot who you are, right? Like the whole teasing and flirting and remembering, and like you said, right? The men go through a physical process and then come to the emotional, and that's how they were able to remember. Hey, they are a great nation. They will be redeemed. They were promised. And by the way, total tangent, but we're going in tangents all over the place. Tahar Samishpacha is actually the vehicle through which the cyclical power we hold as women is also available to the men. Because men are not cyclical. Men don't have this power that we have to really know ourselves, to really be in these phases, to really embody and to really know Hashem deeply in our bodies. And men can experience this through relationship, through Tahar Samishpacha, through really being in that rhythm with when the marriage, goes through a cycle and the relationship goes through cycles, and they get to relate in different ways, in different seasons, in different phases. Yeah, we talk about that, a lot of secrets of Nida.
And yeah, and I will also say that I'm in the middle of taking a course on like the depth of Tarzan Mishpacha, and there's also just there's so much to it. It's another thing that. So one thing I want to say, okay, before I get to that tangent, one thing I want to say is that is another thing we're also taught a little bit like on the surface level, the mirrors, right? They put on makeup to be beautiful when their husbands came home, and I get it, you're teaching it to kids, but it was with the mirrors that they showed themselves and their husbands together, and they teased their husbands, and they said, "I'm more beautiful than you," and they said, "Look what we could be together." That was really, and that's also why Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't understand why the mirror should be used in the Beis Hamikdash, which is, I'm not going to say anything about Moshe Rabbeinu, but we certainly need a reframe, right? We usually can't understand why this is all like kedusha. But what I was going to also say is that this is like a very very deep concept, but we're constantly rectifying from the sin of Adam and Chava, right? Like we're working, and I just want to say that because people don't always like put this into words this way. We know we're at the end of that cycle. I just want to tell everyone, like we know we're almost there. If you look at 6,000 years, we don't know exactly where we are. So maybe Geulah is in 200 years, but maybe it's tomorrow. But even 200 years, that's like our great grandchildren. Like look at the whole scope. We're there. We're at the end, and we could. I hope we'll talk about Pessy, like all the things we can see in this world, how like the curses are going away. Because I
Yeah,
just like
sure.
I get so excited. But I do want to say that men have. I was just learning inside that men rectify the sin. There's a lot of different sources, but one of the things it says is that they do fasting, like the three things we say on Yom Kippur, right? Fasting, tzedakah, and learning Torah, with learning Torah being the most important one. And we could do all those things, obviously, but we're not obligated to learning Torah in the same way, which is also part of the way the world is nowadays because we're after Adam and Chava, but we won't go into that now.
We're seeing
And
changes
like,
in
let's
that
say,
too.
right? And also, we could have like 6 talks about this. And let's say like tzedakah. So it says in the Gemara, like really tzedakah is the husband's in charge of the woman, which is also one of the curses. So she doesn't give big tzedakah without asking him. Anyway, so we could do those things, but they're the man's main things, with learning Torah being the most important rectification. And our rectification are the three, so to speak, women mitzvos. They're not just nice things. This is how we fix the world, and this is how Sarah Imenu became the level of Chava before the Chet, became the level of Chaya, because we know she did these three things, right? She did the challah in her home, she had the candles in her home, and we know that the cloud over her tent was the Taras Mishpacha, the Nida cycle. And so I always tell people, when you choose, because we do have an ability nowadays to kind of shut that part off, when you choose to bring that back into your home, everyone has Kedusha in their home, of course. Of course we all have Kedusha in our home. We have a million ways to bring Kedusha into our home. But you have that extra cloud of Kedusha above your tent when you bring that back into your home, because there's, besides the foundational amuna that we're talking about, that you live in your body, everybody who is like cycling every month also knows there's like a technical level of amuna where you give it over to Hashem and you're just like, I could track my cycle, and see the amazing way my body works. And I think everyone should. There's so much there, and there are the seasons, and I'm actually hoping to incorporate all of that stuff in the next time I do my course. That's why we switched the name to In Rhythm. I'm tying it all into the different stages of Taras Mishpacha, but I'm trying it out myself first, so we'll see how it goes. But what was I saying? But there's like this just technical level of amuna of like, Hashem is circling these days on my calendar, and He's circling when I'm going to start bleeding, and He's circling. And yes, I hopefully can stabilize my cycle to like a pretty stable place, and I know if I'm tracking, I know when it's coming and all that. But in the end of the day, like Hashem's picking my mikvah day. There's like a sort of letting go of just like my body knows what it's doing, and that's Hashem. He knows what He's doing. So you're working on it like practically, and if you're tapping into that, you really are developing this amuna. That was like three
We were
tangents in
talking
one.
we were having this discussion about tracking with fertility awareness, how a lot of people come to it from a control-based perspective. Like I'm going to know my cycle, to know exactly when I ovulate, exactly when I'm fertile, exact and you do get a lot you get all that information. And it's also not it's different than let's say like there's ways in our world today to manipulate the cycle, right? Like there are ways you can use like people use agestin before the wedding, before vacation. We're not going to talk about our opinions about that. I think most people know where we stand. But I do believe there's a time and place for everything, and there are options in the world. Now, I come more from the perspective of like rather know your cycle and live with it than against it. And what our discussion was, is how, yeah, people come to this method of like, I really want to know everything and understand everything and like and you do become the expert of your own body, which is the most beautiful part of this. And at some point there's like a surrender at some point where like I'm realizing it's actually not up to me to control my cycle. I'm realizing that it's so beautiful to witness my rhythm, to witness, to be like this like to be so seen in my experience, to like be so in my body, so in my rhythm, so in my I don't even know if I'm conveying it clearly because it's so much more beautiful than we can even express in words, to really
Have to
like
live
walk the
it.
path to get like with ourselves, with Hashem, like really be seen, be felt, be experienced, be lived. That's really the ultimate feminine. Be in the moment with what it's offering. But our cycle really like is that rhythm, is that guide, is that um it's that flow that we're moving with, and it's not just something that we're blind to or we're not seeing. It's we're literally it's revealed to us. I think that's also a big concept of Geulah is the revealed truth, the revealed light, right? There's like all these things that we're uncovering in our day and age today about our femininity, about the world, about Hashem. They were all there for all the 6,000 years. Geulah is not a new concept. Geulah literally means to reveal. It's we're pulling back the curtain to see what was always there, what was already there. And that's why there was this concept that, as much as we're waiting for Mashiach, as much as it's going to be at the end of whatever the 6,000 years are, whenever the time is, it's also it's also possible to draw in that light to our time, to reality here right now, especially as cycling women, especially because we live the reality in our bodies. We can be in that reality of redemption. And that's what the women of Mitzrayim had. They were living redemption even while still in exile. And we have these cycles that we move through. It's so big, yeah.
I know, there's so much. And I realized when you were saying that, something I was like starting to say before, but then I went off into so many different things I forgot to say it. I was going to say this is something else that we don't learn properly, right? Even if you have an amazing college teacher, a lot of people end up with this perspective of like, it's this bad negative separation sort of thing, and there is a totally halachically fine way to manipulate my cycle. I'm still keeping Taras Mishpach, I'm just not going through the cycles. Why wouldn't I do it? And I think I'm a very young college teacher. We both are, I think. And I think I hear college teachers a lot saying things like, I don't understand these girls nowadays. They just like go on birth control. And I'm like, I'm coming from that. That was me. Right? I was the same person as I talk to people now who was just like, why would I cycle? Like, are you joking? Like, I could just take a pill. Like, why would I do this? And I think I totally don't judge anyone because I was there. And what I want to say, if like that's the place you are right now, is it's really just lack of education, like, and you can make a choice for yourself. I do consults for birth control, and many people I consult with end up picking hormonal options. It's there for a reason, right? So I don't believe actually in like, nobody should be on this. But I do believe in you need to be educated. So you need to know exactly how it's working and not just take something because the doctor gave it to you. But whatever, we don't have to get in birth control. What I'm saying about the cycling, though, is we're also not educated on what the cycle has to offer to us. Like you said before, it's considered normal that it could be painful, right? And it's just this thing I have to deal with, and then I'm bleeding, and I have cramps, and then if I'm married, I can't touch my husband. And like, why would I do any of that if I wasn't given a reason, And so what we want to say to you, if this is a new idea to you, is that there are so many reasons. it's not just like for me the journey was going from that place to then going to a place of like, well, I don't really want hormones affecting every single thing in my body anymore, so I'm gonna try to come off. And then once I did that, I was like, oh my goodness, I do not ever want to have my marriage without cycling again. This is amazing for marriage. Like, and I speak on a marriage chat. I've read a lot of like secular marriage books, and I will tell you, they're always talking about this. This is what they end up coming up to. How do we do this paradox of like newness in marriage, but also like a monogamous marriage that's loyal and whatever? I'm going off topic, so I'll finish up here. But it's perfect for me. And then I came to this place of like what we're talking about now, where like, how could I not cycle? Like this is how we like this is just it's so much bigger than me that women cycle. And this is how I can tap in every month to the Gullus and Geulah, how I can bring it to my home and how I can bring it to the world and how I'm hoping to be, a woman in history who's going to bring Geulah like we all can be. And just the more there's so much out there, the more I learn, the more I'm just like it's almost like crazy that we have this ability to shut it off. It's almost
But
like
I think it's actually the point because we're choosing how conscious we I don't know if conscious is even the word. We're choosing our way of being. If there wouldn't be options, if it would be I think that's how it was for thousands of years. There wasn't an option, let's say, to shut off the cycle or you just lived with what you got. And I think there wasn't so much of a living in this consciousness of I mean there were exceptions. There were always women who were living in a Geulah mindset all the way. But I think it was more of that suppression mindset of like, oh, the cycle is a burden, and we'll talk about. Yeah, I want to get to the reversal of the curses, but I think when the option doesn't exist, it's not a choice, and when it's not a choice, we don't have the fullest power and experience with it, and options exist because we need to make a choice. It's kind of this concept like when I started doing fertility awareness, and I think it became this thing of, oh, this is all about birth control. And it's so funny because fertility awareness used to be just about conception, like used to be people who want to get pregnant naturally, and then it became the thing about natural birth control. It's really both. And people would come at me like how are you out there saying like you're basically telling everyone it's okay to be on birth control and they should all ask the rabbi and like you're not you can't have this conversation. I'm like, hello, this is a real part of life. We're all having these conversations anyway. Like, let's have them in the open. Obviously ask your rabbi like your specific questions. That's not I don't replace that, but we need to have these conversations. And also what really came out what I really know very clearly is my passion is not so much birth control. My passion is choosing life consciously. So how are you coming in? Because I know the difference. Like I've had pregnancies where like it was just like I was young and it was new and birth control wasn't even such a like topic then so much and it was just like you just had babies right after you got married. Now it's more like more of a conversation. And it was great. Like beautiful. Baruch Hashem, I'm so blessed for my children. And also it was a surprise and I didn't like choose it consciously, right? Versus my later pregnancies, I choose consciously. It was a whole different experience. I'm like literally choosing this neshama all the way from the very beginning, making space for it in my life, making space for it in my home. And that's what you get when you have the options, right? The options are there to make it a choice because we have the here, we have choices. And when we choose fully where we're going, the only way for it to be a choice is to have different, right? Like that's the only way. So I think also the concept of Geulah and the concept of living in a certain consciousness, it has to be a choice. It's not just something that like can be thrown onto you. So and also I want to just differentiate. Like I think it may be coming off that way, and I really it's not my intention at all. We're not saying that Geulah means not being on birth control. We're not saying Geulah means you have to cycle all the time. Like we're just saying the concept of the cycle is expressing this in our femininity, in our womanhood, and we see it very clearly. And it could come in so many different ways, right? Like we said before, cycles are all over. Cycles are the moon cycle. We're connected to the moon cycle. We're connected to the cycles of the calendar, the cycles of the seasons, there are cycles everywhere. And also, this is really interesting, the cycle of all the years that we go through, like from our first period until menopause, is also a cycle in itself, a cycle of reproductive years. And this is what I was getting at, where throughout history we've been cycling through exile and redemption. Like we had a first base Megillah, we had a second base Megillah, but it wasn't the ultimate redemption. So what does that mean? That we're cycling, we're experiencing, we're moving through these different energies, and it's bringing it more into the world. And then there's going to be an ultimate. And I think it's hard to understand this concept because it's so weaved into still exile concepts. Like when I say menopause is an ultimate redemption, it's like, what? But what I'm trying to say with that is that we cycle, we cycle, we cycle, we move through exile redemption, exile redemption, exile redemption. It weaves us, it builds us, it shapes us in so many ways, it grows us, right? And then we come to that ultimate of like, okay, the cycles did what it had to do. The cycles are done. The cycles are like have shaped us, have formed us. And then we're at this place where it's like, okay, from here on, it's only revelation, it's only tahara, it's only, the connection piece of it, not the separation piece of it. And from there, that's essentially a parallel of what the ultimate redemption will look like, because it won't go back to exile. Like till now, every time we had like Geulah, it was also okay, back to exile, because that's how a cycle works, back and forth, back and forth. But there will come, because we know how a woman's body works. We can sort of sense or get a glimpse of what it might be like. Is, oh yeah, there is a possibility for cycles to end, and not because, oh, we're so relieved for cycles to be over, but more like, wow, we're so complete. Like, there's, and I say this in almost every call we do, but like there's a Native American saying that with our first the girl's first period, she meets her power. Throughout her cycling years, she practices her power, and at menopause, she becomes her power. Because it's like all these, everything the cycle worked through us and did through us and built through us and grew through us. It's like, oh, we become, like now we become the fullness. And I think that's, again, it might be a hard concept to fully like grasp, but I think on some level, it's giving us a little bit of a taste of what this means, like the cycles of exile and redemption.
I have a few things to say on what you said. First of all, yes, like even right, we don't mean to say that like you're cut off from Geulah Chas v'shalom if you're not cycling. There's so many cycles in the world, right? Like you said, the month, the moon, women are represented by the moon, right? We're compared to the moon, and the men are the sun, and they do have that 24-hour cycle. And pregnancy itself goes through the journey of the cycle, and your whole life is like right, and like the Yom Tovim, the yearly cycle, and we as women have that ability to connect to that cycling. So even if you're in a stage where you're not cycling for whatever reason, you
You
totally
know
are
what it's
still
like in your
connected
body
to
if
this.
you've ever had a cycle
Right.
in your life. Yeah.
Right. Unless you've never had a cycle. But even so, like we can connect to all the cycles around us. It's something that we're able to connect to. So you could definitely connect to this wherever it is that you are. There was something else. Oh, I never thought about that point before that you're saying. Like Hashem put us in this world with Bechira because then we get more reward. So I love how you're saying like when we consciously are picking this awareness instead of it just being like, well, we're women and we cycle and we don't have a choice, and now we actually have a choice and we're coming back and discovering it. So it's so much more powerful because we're choosing it. So it's almost like more rectification, greater geula, because it's like something that we're able to choose on our own. So thank you.
Yeah. And I want to talk about Miriam, because for me that was the light bulb moment, because from the beginning, from when I started delving into cycles and how every woman should know the power that lives inside of her and all that stuff, it was always very important to me that, this truth must be living in Torah, because all truth is in Torah, and this is very resonant. And I was, from the beginning, I was really like looking at different sources, trying to see like where is this? Because it has to be there. And when it clicked for me, it was the story with Miriam and her circle dance. I remember reading about that, and it was so funny because she didn't actually mention cycles, like you were saying before, like just say it's the cycle, right? So she said everything around it, and there was that one piece, but like, why do women have this? Because women cycle. But there was this, sorry, Yehuda Schneider wrote this beautiful piece. It was in the Kabbalistic writings on the nature of masculine and feminine, and there was a whole chapter of Miriam's circle dance. And basically, what happened is that we see in Az Yashar that Maisha sang, it was saying like, when I will sing when I fully grasp this. Like there's this huge miracle, this huge it was a revelation. Like Hashem revealed Himself, but like it was so big that when in the future, when it fully lands, like when it fully integrates. Versus the women, we're singing in present tense. Shirul Hashem, let's sing to Hashem right now. And that's what Miriam was saying to the women. And a few reasons. So first of all, they were dancing, and it was an embodied experience. So like so much of these concepts of the bigness of Geulah, the bigness of feeling Hashem in our body, it's not intellectual, right? The masculine is chachma based, is like men learn Torah from an intellectual place, and need to understand every like logically, right? Men are more logical, women are more embodied. And that's really how we experience these truths. So we experience it in our bodies. And that's how it was. It was in a circle dance. So it was, first of all the women together collectively. Like the rising feminine is not something any of us can do on our own. Like we're really in this together. It's collective. The collective feminine is rising, and that's what's so beautiful about this. Like the sisterhood, the community, the women rising together. And this is the piece that wasn't written there, but she was writing how like women have this intuitive knowledge of being in this like circle. She was mentioning the circle world. So what happened was that there was, and this is a big Ula concept, is that there were many worlds created before this one. So the world before this was called the circle world, the world of points. Like basically, it's how the spheres were arranged. and they were arranged more of in a circular like points form versus in this world it's the linear world or straight world like the Ilmaticon, and they're arranged in lines, right? If you know the regular map of spheres are like lines down, it's hierarchical. Hierarchical, how do you pronounce that? Meaning from top to bottom, right? There's giver, receiver, masculine, feminine, and there's that top down approach. Versus the circle world is circular, like we're all equidistant from the center. We're all equidistant to Hashem. We all connect to Hashem equally, and that's really what we're moving towards, right? It used to be like really the first point where we started seeing this was with the rise of Hasidus from the Baal Shem Tov, where he started bringing this concept that every Jew, no matter how simple, no matter how learned, everyone can connect to Hashem directly. Before that, there was no such concept. Like it was top down. Like the light had to filter down from the other people who were more connected to Hashem. But there's no concept of that today. Everyone connects to Hashem their own way. And Hasidus is a very feminine approach to Torah. Very like it's like Kabbalah in general is right, the receiving, the feminine. So a lot of these concepts are there, and then we're seeing also that being more revealed in our world today, right? Like versus like hundreds of years ago, it was no like it was such a hidden. It is a hidden Torah, and it's being more revealed today. So this Miriam circle dance, so how she's describing it is that she was able to experience the circle truths that had filtered in that after the 6,000 years of this world, the line of the straight world, we're moving back to the circle world consciousness. Which think about that language, like it was unbelievable. I was reading, I was like blown away, like circle world, line world, cyclical, linear, like what? And then Miriam was able to hold that, and that piece, that extra piece that was missing there is like obviously like we have cycles, like we're cyclical beings. We live in circles, and think about like I said before, the drums and the tangerines, tambourines, and the circle dance, like all that is the circle truth that they were able to embody collectively as women. That even the greatest Navi of all time, because he wasn't living in a woman's body, wasn't grasping it in the same way, right? We're not saying Miriam was greater than Moshe. We're saying that the male and female form of that we have a certain embodiment that is there with our cycles, with our feminine nature, with our the circle truths that we hold that we're bringing out as women into the world. So that was the light bulb for me. Like, oh yeah, Geulah, circle consciousness, cycle awareness. Like it's really all there. It's all in the Torah. It's all there, and we see so many examples of just this concept of, yeah, like women coming back to, like you said before, the pre-Chava, the Chaya experience of, and yeah, we can talk about the reversal of the curses. Like it's I think thousands of years ago there wasn't such a thing as pain-free birth, pain-free periods. I mean, I don't know, there was exceptions, but even till recently, it's been so normalized. Like, what do you mean periods are painful? It's not supposed to be. It's really not supposed to be. Birth, okay, there are different ways of experiencing it, but like we've had conversations around this, even the technological advancements. Okay, you can have conversations about natural, not natural, whatever. Like I was actually it's so funny 'cause, like whatever I say can come out the wrong way, and like somebody had an issue once that I was mentioning that epidural is a reflection of Mashiach consciousness. And she's like, how could you say epidural? And like I love natural birth, but also I realized that like there's no monopoly of you can't separate anything from Hashem. Hashem is in conventional medicine. Hashem is in alternative medicine. Hashem is in epidural. Hashem is in hypnobirthing, and Hashem is in your breathing techniques that help you get a natural, pain as painless possible birth as you can. And there are people having pain-free births, naturally or medically, whatever it is. The point is like what is the actual result? The actual result is that the curses are being reversed. That the
The fact
actual
that there are options.
yeah
Whatever the option is, the fact that there are options is like just never used to, it wasn't a thing. Like
yeah.
that you could have a birth with even less pain. And
Hmm.
it's just like one thing I just want to, I want to talk about the curses being reversed very
Yeah.
much. I just want to say one thing based on what you were saying about like the hierarchy versus, one thing that I really love from the book, The Moon's Lost Light, is that she says that the Torah says that whatever, sometimes there's hierarchy and you can't move in the hierarchy, especially in this world. Like the Kohen Gadol is the only one who can go to the Kodesh Kodashim, right? And then there's the Kohen, and there's the Levi. We have this world of hierarchy. But I actually think right after I read this, Benny Freeman came out with his latest album. I'm like another piece that hasn't fit in here yet, but will one day, is music. I'm like, I used to teach piano. I do a lot with music, like separate from this, and my main job separate.
We have a
But
lot of
so
passions. Hi.
a lot. Baruch Hashem. I'm waiting for them all to align because these ones did, and I
They
know they
will.
will. That's
Yeah.
how you come to your
Hmm.
tikkun in life. But Tafkid, I meant to say. But anyways, he came out with on his album. I think there's a song there about this concept that basically a person has an ability to get to an equal level of holiness or even higher in a different way. So, meaning, even if you can't move in the hierarchy, in that book, it's talking about men versus women. So, men have certain things in the hierarchy in this world after the Chet and Gan Eden that women cannot be above. But we should know that no matter what, we always have an ability to reach that point in holiness on our own in a different way. So, that's why, like, you were reminding me, or were you saying their mind? I guess like the hierarchy versus the circle. Like we have, even if there is this sort of hierarchy, so to speak, there's always a way, like Chazal's house, there's always a way that you can reach that same level of holiness. So, and I think the quote from the Gemara is something like, a worker could reach a level of the Kohen Gadol. So, like, even if he can't actually be in the base of Mikdash because that's the hierarchy, he can reach that level in his connection with Hashem. And so, I think that, like, as women, we definitely have a lot of avenues for that and a lot of capability. But let's talk about the curses.
Hold on, you're just reminding me of something.
Yeah.
Because a question that came up a lot when I was doing Secrets of Nida, just in general, like redefining what Nida is. Like it's not this oppression. It's literally like coming into yourself in a whole different way. So a question that came about like why weren't women allowed in the base of Mikdash when they were Nida? Like that feels like a an exclusion. Like it feels like a discrimination, right? And exactly what you're saying now, it's reminding me like all the different ways of connecting to Hashem, but also this that you're in such a different space. Like I think people are so disconnected from this. When you're in your menstrual process, it actually brings you to a whole different world. It's like there's a word called a liminal space, like being like in between worlds, and it's actually connected to Tama and Tahara, like these doorways, these transitions, these in betweens, and that's literally what brings us into these other spiritual states because a doorway has let's call it danger or there's how do we describe this? Um, it's a vulnerable place, right? Vulnerable spiritually, vulnerable in different ways. So so having these entrance, these doorways that we move through, these portals that we move through, that's what moves us between Tama and Tahara. And menstruation, just like similar when you're sleeping, right? Like you can be in a dream state, or like right when you wake up, you're like not fully up yet, like right, like you can have like a different, like be in a different place. It's similar to menstruation, and we can actually just see ourselves differently, be different, connect differently. Um, it doesn't mean you're not in this world. Just the opposite. I think the power of women is that we move between worlds, especially in different phases of our cycle. We get to have different experiences. We can be more spiritual. We can be more practical. We can be more emotional. We can like all these different things. And there's power to each of that. There's no like good or bad or worse or better. Like it's each one has its gift. Um, so that idea of okay, so your time now where you're the service of your Avaida right now is not being in the base of Mikdash, where that's like an outward external service of Hashem. It's you're literally in your space. You're literally in a whole different space. That's actually not going to serve. It's going to clash with where you're at, right? And it also goes back to how men and women serve Hashem differently. Like we just show up differently in the world, and we show up differently in our relationship with Hashem. I think that's why I think so many and this is a big thing I'm doing. Let's say when I do my weekly emails on the parsha, it's bringing it from a feminine cyclical lens because we learned so much of these teachings, so much of Torah from a masculine perspective, because that's just how it was in the world of like from logical thinking, from rational thinking versus embodied of what this experience is actually for us. And not like it didn't always resonate the same way or we didn't always feel connected in the same way. And it's really just coming back to how are we meant to be in this world? How are we meant to connect to Hashem? How are we meant to connect to ourselves? How are we meant to thrive? Because you're meant to thrive, right? Like so often, like cycles feel like a hindrance, like it's holding you back. Actually, what if we align with it? What if it helps you come into your fullest potential? What if, even if you think about productivity, which I know we're getting into so many tangents here, but productivity itself is not the point of cycle. It's not a feminine concept at all, because like, the feminine is more about process versus result. But even with being in this process, even with being with the seasons where I'm at now, if I give myself more rest and menstruation, I let myself come out of myself more and fill my fullest potential at ovulation when we do have usually more energy, we do have more creativity, we do have more of that wanting to build, wanting to, do something with our life, whatever it is, right? It actually, they've done studies on this, like even work wise, if people like had off or like only working on projects during their ovulation, follicular phase, early luteal phase time of the month, they were actually more productive, so to speak. Like again, that's not the point, but even if we look at it from that perspective, we have this built-in system in us that helps us take care of ourselves better, that helps us be more in alignment, that helps us be more productive, that helps us thrive, all those things. And yeah, of course, that's how you connect to Hashem. It's not meant to be a way of deleting yourself. It's meant to be a way of coming into your fullness that brings you into this thriving?
I have so many things to say on what you
Yeah,
just said. Let's see if
I
I can
see you're
remember them and
busting.
go
Go
through
for
them.
it.
First of all, I think the stat is, I don't remember the exact number. I think it's like 25%. Your brain has 25% change over the cycle. Your
Yeah.
brain is literally changing during the cycle, which is also like you have different capabilities during the cycle. And I do want to say to everybody out there who works out in the masculine world, because I had a lot of trouble with this when I first started learning. Like I said, I'm a software engineer. I work corporate, so like I can't just not work during certain times of the cycle. And I want to tell you, like I've been exploring this. We're gonna be talking about it in my next course because I want to really like give that to people. You can still honor this, and you will see differences when you do honor it, even if maybe it's smaller. So maybe I do hope one day I'm gonna just
One
be
percent
working on
shift.
these
Yeah.
things. Right, but like those little shifts open up that your body's like, "Oh, you're really starting to live within this," and it makes such a big difference, and it makes all the parts of the cycle go better when you're honoring what part of the cycle you're in. Even just the knowledge of what part of the cycle you're in makes a big difference. Just knowing for yourself, like, "Oh, this is just," sometimes we'll say like, she's just hormonal, right? Like she's just, it's because I'm PMS. Well, what's coming up for you then? It's not just because, like, that was a big shift for me. It's not just because you're PMS, something really true that's lying in you. You're feeling more sensitive about it now, and it's good to be able to say, okay, I'm in this part of the cycle. That's why I'm feeling this more strongly. But also, what is it that's coming up, right? And so, anyways, that's part of all the cycle pieces. But I also wanted to quickly address the Beis Hamikdash question, like even just on a more practical level, I just want to point out that when there was the Beis Hamikdash, there were many, many different ways to go into a state of Tuma, and if someone was in that state, they couldn't go into the Beis Hamikdash. It wasn't
Right.
women; it was anybody
Hmm.
in that state. We are actually the only keepers nowadays. The Jewish
Of the
married
Tahara
cycling woman is
process.
the
Yeah.
only keeper. Yeah, we're the only. Nobody would be able to go into the Beis Hamikdash now.
Everyone else is
Probably
Tama
everybody is in
right
a
now.
state of right? Right. But when you go to the mikvah, you are in a state of tahara. We are
Yeah.
the keepers of that. And I also want to say, like, something big I like to do is also redefine a lot of terms. And one of them is tuma and tar. Tuma's from, there's a lot of different definitions, and I'm learning even more now. But tuma, I like to say, comes from timtum. It's like a blockage. It's
Yeah.
not undirty. It's just that my connection with Hashem is different now. There's a little bit of a blockage in that direct, like, going into the Beis Hamikdash
And
state.
just like in
But
the
it's not.
marriage, that's what we're saying. It actually brings connection in a whole new way because there's that newness, there's that renewal. Like we need to step back sometimes to like see things differently, to come back differently.
And that's actually the best time to connect emotionally, I will say. And I will also say, even if you're not cycling, any of the things that I'm trying to explore around how to react in your marriage differently in different parts of the cycle can and should still be implemented, even if you're not cycling, because they're all very important. We can still live in that cyclical way, even if we're not like physically cycling in our body. And then the last thing I wanted to say is that from all, I think you've said, I've heard you say this before, Pessy, but also just relearned it somewhere. From all mammals, about 2% of mammals menstruate.
Yeah.
So what actually happens with all the rest of the animals is
A
that the
living
blood just
Geulah.
gets reabsorbed. Yeah, the blood like reabsorbs back into the uterus. And
Yeah.
biologists cannot understand why we bleed. It's such a waste of energy. It's such a waste of like it doesn't even really make sense why our blood should come out. It should just reabsorb back into the uterus. Like why do we even go through this process? Almost no mammals menstruate. It's like us, some primates like gorillas, some monkeys, and like some bats. Like that's
Yeah.
really so to me. First of all, the answer is because we're in an incomplete world, right? There isn't really a biological answer. We're in a world of Adam and Chava after the Chait. That
Right.
is why we have this good and bad mixed together. But I also just want to say Hashem made us with the cycle for a reason. So few creatures on this earth are cycling, and we are. So there's something for us as humans, as the ones who will hopefully change the
And there must
world,
be an
to
element
take
of
challenge.
consciousness to it because consciousness is a human experience.
Exactly. And so it was given to us. Okay, but let's talk. Can we talk about the curses now quickly?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so the first thing I want to say, so there's a lot of like, there's literature on this and Torah on this, but we do see now that I think it was the Vilna Gaon who wrote out exactly different years of when different powers, so to speak, are going to come into the world, and they can either be taken for good or for bad. But we see so many of these coming in and so many things reversing. And what I want to start with is just because I work in tech, and I actually work in one of the foremost companies of AI. I like to tell people, like, I don't think, maybe now people are starting to realize, but when we first started working on it, I do not think people realize AI is not a fad, and it is not like a passing phase, and it is not something cool to make you a little more productive. It is changing the fabric of the world. And I think if I wasn't connected to this, or if I wasn't religious, it would be so scary because it's changing everything. I'm telling you from the inside, it's changing everything. And on the other hand, to me, it's like, this is Geulah. Like, what was before the chait? They didn't have to do any work, right? So they didn't have to plant any plants. Bread grew on the trees. Forget AI for a second. We can go to the grocery store and buy bread off the shelf. Do we realize that that is a Geulah thing? And now we have AI where like, okay, it's not, I mean, I wouldn't trust it totally. I don't, but I use it all day, every day. I'm required to. It's making things so much easier. That ease in the work, and this is not just AI. This is all technology from the Industrial Revolution all the way
Yeah.
through life, which technology gets faster and faster as it goes because it builds on itself. It's exponential. It's the way it works.
And that's some
All
of
of
the
it
male
is
curses
Geulah.
being reversed as well.
Right, exactly. So we see the feminine with like the birthing, and we'll talk about more in a minute. And we also see the masculine. Everything is really it's reversing itself. And so to me, it's like I look at this, and yes, there's a lot to say about AI. There's a lot that's scary about it. There's a lot that's dangerous about it. There's a lot that it's taking away people's jobs. Yes, but it's also Geulah. Like Geulah is coming. We can
When you
see
open
it
your
coming.
eyes, you see Geulah everywhere.
It's just it's crazy. It's so real. And again, maybe it's in 100 years, maybe it's tomorrow, but we're in that stage. We're
So from really
definitely in
from the
that part.
1700s, we were already moving towards it's kind of like if you think of the cycle as even like the day, right? Like you have night and then you have the dawn and then the height of the even like when like by when they came out of Mitzrayim, it was like the middle of the day, like specifically when the sun was at its highest in the sky, and it was like when the moon was the fullest, like it was both together. I actually wrote that last week in the Parsha Point, how both were united, and it was in that fullness. So, like when we have that, why am I forgetting why I mentioned that? What were we talking about? Oh, oh yeah, like the from the context of history, if you think about the full moon cycle of
Yeah,
6,000
1700s
years,
and all.
right? And we see like really like think about really we think of the cycle as menstruation to menstruation. I'm gonna flip it for a minute. Think of it actually from full moon to full moon. Because really that's what the history was. They were created in their fullness, then there was a diminishment, right? The fall of the feminine, the fall of Gan Eden, all that. So there was a fall into like the middle of history was like that menstrual darkness, right? Like that exile experience. And then we're rising back into fullness. So it's almost like the dawn of the morning coming, the day coming, and we see that from the 1700s already, like from the dawn of time, the dawn of these last few hundred years, where we see the Baal Shem Tov and Hasidus from the Torah perspective. We see technology, like the Industrial Revolution, like all that happening at the same time. We see like the revolutions of freedom and equality, right? Like the hierarchical system of monarchy was toppling over, and there weren't kings, there were like freedom and like equality, right? Like all those things at the same time. And then yeah, then we see more later on like the feminist movement, right? Like so what you were talking about before, how things came into the world and could be taken in the wrong energy, but the energy is there. And I think in general, like throughout history, there were moments that Geulah was there that could have been fully realized, but for different reasons it didn't fully happen. So it's really how that was taken. So in the like 1960s, whatever, like even before, like in the late 1800s, when the feminist movement started sparking a little bit, when people started talking about these concepts, so it's also related to these things of the feminine rising, but it was taken in a totally wrong way. It was this idea of, like we said before, women they thought equality meant that they have to be like men because it's still coming from that masculine perspective of like the ultimate is to be a man, the ultimate is to be like the masculine, the strength that coming from that perspective. So let's copy that. And it didn't like now looking back, like even the feminists today are seeing like, wait, that didn't really serve us. Like now there's like a new way feminism. Okay, let's be more feminine. Like let's actually like let's be empowered and also like go in rhythm with our
They
bodies. Like
misunderstood that the sun and the moon are going to be the same size when Geulah comes, but they're still going to be the sun and the
different.
moon. They're
Yeah,
not going to be the same thing. Yeah,
exactly.
but even that, right? Like everything that comes, if it's not taken by Torah, it gets taken by the other side. So even feminism, even though it did terrible things and we obviously don't believe in it, it was that power coming into
It
the world.
opened
Like
it opened the portal. Yeah.
yeah, the fact that we have Beis Yaakov, right? We learn Torah. Women never learned Torah. It wasn't like they weren't allowed to. It was just they weren't interested in it. Like you said earlier, that abstract knowledge was something that was taken away when Chava sinned in Gan Eden. So it's coming back to us. Like there are people who enjoy learning Torah now, women who are enjoy it and are capable. And not everybody, but it's coming back. If you go through, the Beis Yaakov system, or many of the systems, right? You're learning Torah. Women never used to learn Torah. So if you look at
But even
history,
with that,
everything
what we're
ties
seeing
in.
now more is like, hey, but we want to learn it the feminine way.
Right. Okay. Even that has to get switched, but that's because
Yeah.
women never learned Torah before. So we
Yeah,
have
yeah,
to
yeah.
figure
So it's
out,
really stages. It's like
how
with
to.
the dawn rising, we see like little sparks of light until the full light is revealed. So that's kind of where we're at in the last few hundred years. It's like okay, these little moments in history spreading more and more and more until the full, like even the word revelation, it's so cool because the take the word galgal. like the Geulah, like the world moves in a circle, in a cycle. Um, and if you think about Galus and Geulah, they both also share like a similar root, and it's the root of Gale, to reveal. And both Galus and Geulah, it's not opposites. It's really not opposites. It's part of the cycle. It's part of the Galgal, and it's part of the revelation. We only like the revelation only happens because we move through exile and redemption, because we move through darkness and light, night and day, and that's the duality that came into the world that helps us experience the fullness, helps us like kind of like when you have a paradox, when you have two opposites and then you meet, there's a meeting point, like literally like marriage, right? Like men and women are opposites and they're coming together, like that meeting point of union. That's revelation. That's completion. That's redemption in a way. So it's cycling itself, and we experience that viscerally as women. Cycling itself is the process. Like that's exactly what we're saying here all along. Like the feminine rising, the cycle awareness, the coming back to our knowledge as women that we hold in our bodies. It doesn't have to be intellectual. It doesn't have to be this like, big logical reasoning. It's actually embodiment. It's actually like the experiences we have being in our body, being in our cycle, being in our experience of life, even like the feminine healing. Like so many of us, like this is a big part of the work I do. Like so many of us have um had negative experiences around our womanhood, around our cycles, around like all these things being taboo, about around periods, menstruation, fertility, all these things, and healing that, coming into a new like that's also like we're pulling back the curtain, we're revealing what's really there. It's all of it is connected. I don't want to end this.
I know. We have to do like a part two.
Yeah, when you
I
do your
do.
part too.
I don't know if any of the comments are questions. I haven't been looking, but maybe just
Yeah, if you're here
comments.
live, you definitely get to also put in your questions. That's another benefit. So interesting to hear your perspective of tech and Geulah. I'm thinking, look at how many people are moving away from industrialization and closer to nature, and the world how it was meant to be. So I think it's also part of the cycles. Like you need to experience each side fully.
I mean, also, I think balance is always key. So the whole world works like this. We go way to, this happened with the medical world also, right? Everyone went way to the medical side. Birth control became a thing in the 50s and everybody, and now, COVID helped with this. People are coming back like, maybe we don't fully trust medical establishment. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. Same with tech. It's become so ubiquitous, and and now we have the science to say we don't want our kids on this all day, and we don't want to be on this all day either. And so we're going to the other side. So balance is always key. But again, like we said before with epidural, hypnobirthing, whatever, the tools are there. The tools are there, and the tools are Geulah tools because these are things that we've never had in 6,000 years that are clearly reversing the curses.
Yeah. Someone's asking, oops, jumping. Let me just see if I can get back to it. Someone's asking, what can we say about healthy masculinity? What if a man is in his feminine energy? How can he go into his malchus? I think like because we're having a conversation about the feminine, I think what some people have a misconception about the idea of the feminine rising and Mashiach, and like there were literally like tons of work written on this. Like the Baal Tanya wrote about the rising feminine, the Arizal wrote about the rising feminine. We're talking about the 16, 1700s. And it was never about like that's also one way where the feminist movement kind of tilted it in the wrong direction. It was never about overpowering men. It was never about taking away replacing men's power with women's power. It was never about that. It was always about each like both the sun and the moon being in their fullness, right? Like each having space. Like when the moon asked her popular question at the beginning of time, like how can two kings rule with one crown? And it's always taken in this context of like, oh, she wanted to be more, and then she was punished, and she was diminished. It was never about that. It was a genuine question of like, I want us to fully be equal and each be ourselves, because then it was more of an enmeshment. It was like you couldn't really tell the difference between sun and moon. It was just like an exact reflection, and both were equal lights, and there was no individuality. And what the process of cycles and this whole concept of all these 6,000 years, what it gives us is no, the masculine and feminine are two distinct um, faces, two distinct reflections of the divine, and each one needs to be in its own power. So what happens with the men, and this was an effect of the feminist movement as well, is that men were emasculated because it was working the opposite way. It was okay, so women are replacing men. We don't need men, and also this is also a deep Kabbalistic concept of relationship as well, with the rising feminine of the beginning, and this was true for thousands of years about marriage, is that it was a need-based relationship. Women couldn't survive without men. It was an actual survival thing, and that's not the reality today, right? But
Another curse being reversed that we come
exactly,
through
yeah,
love instead of
and
fear,
it's
both
also
relationships and with Hashem.
yeah, and it's also a concept that many people experience in their marriage. Also, like where at the beginning, it's more like they feel like they need each other, and then they come to this new point of like, oh, we genuinely like like, no, I'm whole myself. I'm complete myself. It's not like, oh, the other half completing me. That's not a real concept. It's, oh, I'm seeing that I'm full myself, and I want to share that with you. Like, I want together how much more we can be, right? So that's really the ultimate masculine and feminine union of, wait, we don't need the other. We want the other. There's desire versus need, and that's also, yeah, exactly, a relationship with Hashem of like of this like, I just want to serve you because I see your light so much, and I see how much, like, I feel it. I feel it in my body.
I
But
also, and I just
what are
want to
your
add one piece.
yeah.
I want to just add one piece to that also. Like, if you look at the book, let's say Circle, Arrow, Spiral, right? The
Mhm.
goal is for everyone to be spiral. So we're not saying that men are only masculine energy and women are only feminine energy. The concepts of masculine and feminine energy are concepts separate from men and women. So yes, we want to try to tap more into the feminine. And like you said, Pessy, like this is a talk about women. So that's why you're hearing more about that. And I also think we live in a very masculine world. So we're trying to tap more into feminine. But everybody is supposed to figure out how to marry the two of them to
Yeah.
create this thing where you're not just sitting
Inside
and
of us
being,
too. We all have
you're
masculine
not
and
just
feminine inside of
right.
us.
Exactly. So if a man is able to sometimes express like the emotional connection, what seems like a more feminine energy, that's probably a healthy thing as long as he's not only there because, like I said, balance. Everybody's supposed to have that balance of both.
Yeah. Okay, we're not going to get to all the questions, but I'm just going to skip over. Someone's asking, how is, okay, so someone's asking if I talk about painful periods. Yeah, I do talk about that in my course and in my work. Like, you can definitely reach out to me. I basically work with all kinds of cycle symptoms and ways that your cycle is out of balance. And we work with bringing it into more alignment from a physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual perspective. Because that's what we keep saying here, spiritual, physical, like it's really all one. So we definitely address that more. How is childbirth reversing to Geulah state? So someone just wants to clarify what we were talking about before. I mean, we can say this quickly that what we were already saying. You want to just wrap it up in a quick?
Yeah, just I think there's more opportunity for first of
Hmm.
all, childbirth used to be an opportunity that you might die. And even now you might, but it's just much,
Yeah.
right? It's not
Yeah.
as common. And also just the fact that there are opportunities for less painful birth is a Geulah thing. And I want to answer the same question with the tech that people are asking about. I'm not saying that we are in Geulah now, right? And we sometimes get confused with this also with the feminism. We women now sometimes think that we are already on the level of men, and that's actually a mistake. We Hashem asks the moon in the famous Agada in the Medrash, if hopefully you know what I'm talking about. They Hashem tells the moon, make yourself smaller, and we're still in that state. And actually, a big challenge nowadays is that women have this ability to be big, but Hashem's asking us to still be small because Geulah is not here yet. We're not supposed to be the big out there. Anyway, so that's on the side. But what I want to say about the tech is like, yes, the tech might be dangerous. I firmly believe that everything could be used for good or for bad. Nothing is on its own good or bad. I don't think that it's possible to say, don't touch AI. AI is a muktzah. Like,
It's
good
everywhere
luck.
already.
I'm saying good luck. Like it's so we need to figure out healthy ways. The same as when internet came in, and it's scary and it's
Yeah.
dangerous. But there are so many. It's changing people's lives. So I think in a positive way. So I think that it doesn't mean Geulah's here. Geulah's not here. We'll know when it's here. But we're in those. We're in that like Erev Shabbos, or like you said, Pessy, like in the dawn, or like the birth pains, right? Like we're there where these tools are coming, and they're very scary. Yes, if we continue for the next 300 years going on this path, it's a scary thought. But when I think about that, I just think in my head like it's Geulah can't continue, right? Like it's not going to continue to destruction. It's what it just shows me. I'm not saying that we should all use AI because it's Geulah. I'm saying the fact that we have these tools like AI, like epidural or hypnobirthing or breathwork or any of this, the fact that we have these revelations being brought into the world that could be used for good or for very bad, the fact that the powers are here is showing us that we're on the way to redemption.
Exactly. I do think we have to start closing.
Yeah.
I know there's like still more questions coming in. Um, but I think we are going to do maybe a part two. Like, stay tuned, guys. I think there's still so much here. I am going to put something in the chat. Hold on a second. So I think the first time um, that so this program that I'm doing in 2 months is called Redemptress, and the first time this word popped up for me was, and I think this is a big point of also that I think it's important to talk about Geulah, is we think about, this is how I always thought about Mashiach, like this man riding on a horse and a donkey that's going to just like save the world, and there's an element of that, and I think also what we're drawing a lot in, especially as women, that we're seeing how powerful like our experiences is we're actually drawing in the redemption energy. Like, we're drawing in the reality. Like, the way we move in the world is like our physical, spiritual experiences is also becoming manifest on a global level. Like, we see that in the world like so much. Like, just what's happening in Israel and what's happening all over the world. Like, there's so much movement all over the place. Um, So what I so what I realized was like, hey, through this work, is especially the healing work that I do around the feminine, it's like, we actually have this inner redemptress. We actually have this part of us that's we're an active part of it. There's this part of us that's actively redeeming ourselves, and it's not just a collective. It starts with individual, right? Redemption starts within. And how are we healing from our own life, like our own stories, our own gullus, our own exile experiences, and coming to our own awareness, our own healing, our own consciousness, right? And it's happening collectively. We're all doing this together, but it's also happening each individually because we each have different stories. We each have different exile experiences. That's also the reality of our world today. I think it used to be more back in the day. It was like a collective exile in terms of like, all the Jews were in Persia, all the Jews were in Greece, and like that was the collective experience of the nation. I think today it's very different. We're spread out over the world, and we each have different challenges, different things we're moving through, and it's an exile experience for everyone. Everyone is moving through that, and also we're seeing more and more people also coming into a redemption consciousness, like they are experiencing um, freedom from their experiences, like they're able to rise above, but not rise above because we're spiritual bypassing anything. We're actually healing. We're actually experiencing this on a deep level. So I talk about this a lot more in redemption and redemptress, how we bring together again the cycle work of how we move through the cycle, how we see the exile redemption within our own cycles, within our own life, within our own how we're showing up in the world. And I'm opening. It's happening in 2 months, starting on March 9. It's like a 10-day process. It's very small. It's not like this. I have
I
big.
highly recommend.
And you were there. And it's and I also like part of my thing is that everyone comes back every year because I feel like you have a whole different experience. That last year was the first time I did it, and I was like, I look, Mashiach should come and we're whatever. But also I realized, even if Mashiach comes, we're gonna do this because we're going to be even more expanded in our redemption consciousness, and we're even even more connected to ourselves. And I don't know what our cycles will look like, honestly. There's so many different opinions, but every year you can come back free of charge. Like you come in once, you join once, and you're there for life. So it's a 10-day program. I put the link in the chat. I'm gonna put it in the description below as well. And it's early like pre-sale now. I think it's about maybe like 15, like uh about 10-15% off. I'm not sure exactly. No, no. Sorry. That was Forever's Live. I didn't want to make you all jealous on the recording, sorry, but I did give a little bit of a treat for Forever's Live. I know it's not possible for everyone, but you are still getting a very big discount. You'll see it on the link. It's reclaimwomanhood.com/redemptress. And it becomes very, very personalized. Like we're talking a lot about different topics here, and this becomes very experiential. Like you really experience this in your body. You really bring this home. We have two live classes, two Q&A calls, and audio activations and like prompts that can really help you do this work for yourself. And it's not work as in like, oh, like again, like in more work on myself, more. It's really this awareness. It's really seeing what's already in your life, what's already available to you. And I really want every woman to have access to this. So yeah, and we're gonna do a part two before that still, because there's so much we still want to talk about.
And I also just want to say I'm doing, I think nothing's planned for sure yet, so you're hearing here first, but I'm hoping to have two free classes coming up. One, not on these topics exactly, but everything's related.
Everything's
One
related.
on yeah, one on common myths with Ona with physical intimacy and how actually when you think that it's not Jewish perspective, it might be Greek, might be Christian, we'll explore. And I think I'm thinking about doing my birth control class free. I don't want to put it into my full course this time, and I just want everyone to have all of it's just information. I'm not your Rav, I'm not your doctor. You bring it to them. So you could look out for that, and then my full course Mirz Hashem after Pesach. So my website's being redesigned, but it is right now called inrhythmcourses.com. If you sign up for emails there, then like I said, I wish I could send out emails, but I don't, but you'll get an email when there's like a class coming up. Some of the free ones will hopefully be very soon. And again, just want to say for Redemptress, anything Pessy teaches is amazing, but it's also
Yeah,
so
I think you
nice
were
to
like the
feel.
first to sign up when I opened it last year, if I'm not mistaken. I'm almost
I
sure.
was just like, what, Geulah? Like, I have to join this. Sometimes when it's a bigger course, like I can't commit because I'm so overcommitted. But this was like, I'm gonna just do it. It's
Yeah,
so
I wanted
nice.
to
It's
do a
not all
short,
live.
exactly. I just want to do a short,
And
like
it's
almost like mini immersion. Yeah.
and it's Purim and Pesach time. So I want to encourage everybody. Like that is the time of Geulah. So you open yourself up to thinking about how often do we I don't know about you, but like I don't have so much time to I wish I could learn about upcoming Yom Tovim, but I can't. So this is a way to like truly get into that season in an embodied way.
My head is spinning because there's still so much we need to talk about. Like as you were talking about Christian, I'm like, oh my gosh, like there's so much there also, like the different religions in the world and how they hold their and how like our approach is different, how we're the sun and the moon together, and there's so much. My head is spinning.
It's just, it's also like such a deep concept. You can
Yeah.
always be learning more and more. I'm just putting in the chat. If I know that my own filter blocks my website
Oh
because I
wow.
talk about intimacy and stuff, I
I
think.
put your
Um,
website,
but
I hope I put it correctly. I put it in the chat.
but I'm just gonna put in here, you can email me. I just rebranded, so I think this is my email, inrhythmcourses@gmail.com. I'm like still like switching over. If it doesn't work, it's the old one is reclaimcourses@gmail.com, and that'll still work. But yeah, the email must be right because I see that somebody just subscribed. But yes,
Amazing.
thank you everybody.
Right.
This has been
And you
amazing.
can reach me at Pessy at reclaimwomanhood.com. And yeah, we're gonna do a part two. Stay tuned, guys. Okay. Thank you, everyone.